Hi, and welcome to the Fulfill Truth podcast. This is my podcast in which we have sometimes uncomfortable conversations to a wealthier life. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to Jose Alcaine. Jose Alcaine and I have known each other for about 34 years, I believe now, right? I think it's been 34 years. And the reason why I have Jose here with me today is because he's been doing investing, for many years, over close to 3 decades now. And I wanted to talk to him about, his investment path, his journey towards financial independence and what that stuff means to him and to various people. And also to kind of teach people that, there's various ways of doing things to make yourself comfortable. One of the things that a lot of people have in their mind is that they have to work hard. So, Jose, this is one of my pet peeves: is that people have this mentality of get up, go to work until you're 65, and then die 2 years after that, because society tells you you have to just work hard, and then put your money in a savings account and live off that. But you've done it in a different way. So, what has been your pathway towards your investment world? What have you been, in other words, what has been your plan towards investing?
Yeah, I mean, listen, my plan is, when I was a young man, I think the most important thing for young people to realize is that getting to a place you want to get to financially is something that can easily be accomplished. For me, the most important thing was figuring out, you know, what is a priority to me, right? The Greeks say, know yourself, know thyself. That's an important factor. If you want to be that person that's 40 and under and is going to be in the front of a magazine or become a billionaire, that's some really big aspirations that require a lot of sacrifice. Now, the importance of knowing yourself means that you prioritize what's important. And if you go beyond what's important to you, in other words, you try to do things that are not important to you, you're going to live a difficult life. So my investment path was always about family. It was always about having to avoid growing up the way I grew up. My family was, somewhat poor growing up. I have the rare instance that I'm almost like a reverse immigrator to the United States. I was born in the United States, and then my father moved our family from California to El Salvador in the early 70s. And then, of course, El Salvador had its issues, and we moved back. And we struggled as a family, pretty much until I was 16 years old. And so I never wanted that life for my family. And so that was my motivation. And based on my values and what I felt was important, I made a plan to kind of start looking at figuring out ways to buy assets, have investments, grow within my career so that I can be a provider and then also the head of a household along with my partner, my wife, to to have a great family and build a nice little nest egg for future generations.
So that's a great thing, because you're talking about the inspiration that took you, to your journey towards financial independence. One of the things that a lot of people talk about in regards to financial independence, right, is that they need to have a big bank account, a lot of millions and millions of dollars in their bank account. It's been interesting talking to different, entrepreneurs, in their path towards financial independence. And it's pretty interesting how they all talk about how it really is not how much money you have in your bank account, but how much the money is working for you. How they'll do passive investments, they'll buy real estate, they'll open up businesses and stuff like that. What have you done towards that pathway to kind of help you get some financial independence?
I mean, I've done many different things. As you know, I'm a W-2 employee, right? So I've worked with many big corporations throughout my career, and I've had the opportunity to grow within those careers. But it is true, right? If you want some big level of success, you have to do other things. You just can't be a W-2 employee. You have to look at opportunities when they come your way. And so for me, my approach was, invest, even if it's just a little every week. I started this when I was 16 years old. The second I got a job, in those days, they used to have what's called drip programs, right? Dividend reinvestment programs. And certain companies within their website would have opportunities for people that were, young to go in there and invest. So I started doing that early on when I was 16 years old. And then when I got my first job, the company offered a stock purchasing program. So every week I was putting away $10 to go towards that. What people got to realize is, you know, getting to a particular place financially is not something that happens overnight, you know. And yeah, there is some work, hard work that it takes, but you also got to be smart and be consistent. I think consistency has been kind of one of the main levers that's really helped me become successful in that I've been consistent ever since I was 16 years old. And time helps, right? You know, they say the I forgot the ninth wonder of the world is compound interest.
Right.
I think that's one of the things that people got to realize. The younger you start, the easier it becomes. And so that if you're consistent and you continue to do that, buy stocks, put money in index funds, put money aside for an emergency. Those little tiny things add up little by little, and then by the time you're in your mid 30s and your 40s, you have a nice little nest egg, and actually it could be a potentially large nest egg depending on how much you continue to put into that.
Okay. So, that's good. So now kids nowadays, there's this trend where they'll get a job, stay there for 2 or 3 years, and then move on, right? Um, what would you tell to these sometimes these people who just jump to job, between jobs, and they don't have the opportunity to invest in their company or have profit sharing or anything like that? What could they do?
I mean, you can do it outside of that. So I'll give you an example. Most of my investments didn't start with my career, right? When you're starting your career, it isn't until you get into further titles like a director or above where you start getting things like stock options. Now, 401k opportunities are always there. So I encourage everybody, if you're a young person, if you work for an organization that matches 401k, always do that. You're going to get at least you're going to get some free money from the company, whether it be 2 or 3% of what you put it in because you get that money. Now, if you're jumping from job to job, now a lot of young people do that. And to some degree, from a salary standpoint, that's smart. But I would encourage people to also make sure that if you are doing the jump to jump, try to make sure you're getting everything you can from your previous company. Learn everything that you can before you make the jump. And then, of course, if there's opportunity to grow within the organization, try to do that instead of the jump to jump. Most companies look at that as somebody that's not going to be loyal to the company. And so, therefore, the concern there is if I hire this person, that means I'm going to train them, I'm going to give them all this very important information that they're going to take somewhere else and move away from me. And then I have the added costs to bring somebody in to replace them. But I would say, going back to your question of what are some things they can do if you're doing jump to jump, open a separate brokerage account, have your separate IRA, put money into different assets. Like, as you know, at least with me, I've purchased homes. Now, they're homes that I live in, but, as they've grown with equity and we had to upgrade to get a bigger home because our family grew, we sold it. And of course, there's some tax benefits to doing that. If you're single, you can offset 250,000. If you're married, it's over 500,000 of any profit that you make off of sales. So I've been fortunate enough to do those type of things, invest in stocks, invest in mutual funds, and then also, really do what we call, asset allocation. I even invest in precious metals simply because I want to be diversified so that when things get, heavy with the stock market, maybe real estate does well. Or if real estate's doing terrible and the market's doing terrible, well, maybe the precious metals are doing well. And so there's many different vehicles that somebody can invest in. And there's so much information out there too. I mean, God, I mean, the young people of today have the benefit of YouTube and all these different
Yeah.
things that make things so easy. Back when we were growing up, you had to go to a class. You had to go to a library and look at those card catalogs to find a
Yep.
book. And the beauty of today's technology is that everything's at your hands, everything's at your fingertips, and
Yep.
there's so much information out there. I mean, You can go on YouTube, you can go on all these different sites, you can go on some colleges and get free college course level uh, courses on negotiation, on public speaking, on many different things. So the beauty of today's time is the youth have so much at their fingertips, and as long as they have the motivation, they have the discipline, man, sky's the limit. You can learn anything.
That's 100% true what you said. I've talked to my son about that. We've had conversations about, sometimes people don't realize how much access to the world they have just on their phones. I remember when you and I were growing up, we talked about joining an investment club, with a bunch of some high school, Christina and some of those people. We had a teacher, in our business math teaching us about stocks. And in those days, you would look at a stock the day after because of the newspaper, they put all that information. Now you have that at the second. You can want to, like real life. You don't have to be an expert or insider trader or anything like that, because you have access to your phone and you can look at your phone and look at the data instantly, which is really, really amazing. Now, in regards to your pathway, what would you be able to share a mistake that you made early in your financial journey and what you learned from it?
Yeah, and listen, the one thing for whoever's going to watch this, whether you be young, older, whatever the case may be, you're always going to make mistakes, and I made plenty of them with investment. I'll give you an example. Sometimes it was just an issue of holding on to something. So, years ago, I had a very good position in, let's say, Microsoft stock, and
Hmm.
I thought everybody's using this operating system, right? So I bought the stock. The stock was down, and it was down for a very long time, and I had a good position on it. And my stock basis, or my cost basis for the stock was $24, and I had a lot of shares, right? I, you know, hindsight, right? It's 2020, but at the time, I'm like, this thing hasn't done anything for me for 6 years.
Right.
And at the time, they weren't even paying dividends. They started paying dividends a little bit after I basically sold my whole position. Now, I'm sure, and we're in December of 2024. Somebody can go right now, go to Yahoo Finance, look up the ticker symbol, and realize that that stock's, I think, is at $400 or $500 right now.
Wow.
So being too quick to get out of something is one mistake, right? Especially with a company that has solid foundation and solid a solid balance sheets and financials. Now, the opposite of that, other mistake I made is thinking, kind of short term, like quick get it, like going into, like, let's say, a speculative stock that doesn't have financials, doesn't isn't producing anything, but there's a possibility of it, producing something. Buying that, and then also writing that down all the way down to you know
Right.
$1 or $2. So taking a big loss with certain things like that. Again, you learn from all those mistakes. You try to reevaluate what you did wrong, what you did right, and then shift a little bit, as you move forward, right? I'm still making mistakes, but I've had some major wins, and that's the way you got to play it. I mean, be careful with your money. Obviously, if you have a little bit to play with, great. You know, sky's the limit. Try whatever you can, but make sure you always have a core basis of stocks or investments that are solid, and so that you're not risking it all on one thing.
That's extremely smart. And, most people always talk about, being diversified, things like that. And of course, there's a small group that say, well, don't do the diversification, stick to one or two things, you just become an expert at it. So I think, like you said, everybody has the opportunity. Education is key. Go and learn as much as you can. So, with all that being stated, what would you say is an uncomfortable truth about money or investing that people often avoid in discussions?
I think, I don't know that there's an uncomfortable truth. I just think people avoid it altogether. They don't like talking about money. They don't like, and they think of money as being a bad thing. If you got a lot of money, it's because you did something bad, or you screwed over somebody. And I think that's the misconception. And I think people really got to work on their attitude or their philosophy towards money and what that means. I look at money as a means to being able to provide for my family, being able to provide me experiences that unfortunately many people in this great country are not able to experience. I mean, I've had the luck, the benefit of being able to experience some great things, go to places, have some amazing meals, experience things that a lot of people are not going to have a chance to because, you know, it could be many different reasons. But my point is that, with money, you should change your philosophy. And I know a lot of people worry about speaking about it. They worry about it being the root of all evil, those type of comments. And it should be an open conversation, especially amongst your family, your immediate family, right? Have a discussion, teach your kids, talk to your friends, your kids' friends about these things because I think it's an important thing. Now, is it the most important thing? No, but one should know what it means to them, what it could bring them, and how to go about pursuing it in the right way, right? Don't do anything illegal. Don't do anything that's going to cause anybody harm. But there are opportunities out there, and I think the one mistake that a lot of people make is, and they call it unintentional blindness, right? Everyone is so fixated and got blinders on and just thinking there's only one way to do things. And then there's so many opportunities that are flying by them. And because they're not paying attention, they're blinded to it. Opportunities are given to us every day. And I think, the youth, younger people, um, sometimes needs to just slow down and look what's out there. Listen to other people that have done it before. Like I said, there's so much information out there that it's, you know, the, the young people of today have, or anybody for that matter, has so much information that would be beneficial to them in any aspects of their life, whether it be health, money, whatever they want, it's available to.
So one of the things that's interesting about you is that you started your investing career pretty much as a teenager, late teens, and you've grown, very well throughout your different lifespan. So that's a great example, right, for somebody who's starting out. But what about that one person who's maybe 40, 50 years old, or maybe even 60 years old? What would you recommend to them?
To start. Look, like I said, I think one can argue that becoming rich is easy as long as you're consistent and you start early. And I know for somebody that's in their 50s, you've lived more of your life than you have left, but there's still opportunity to do that, even if it's just a little bit. Being consistent, right? Now you may not end up with a big, huge number that some of these studies are coming out now that people think, oh, I need to have a $10 million net worth or a $5 million net worth. The reality is you don't. You can build a nice little nest egg, and then listen, you can look at different parts of this great country to go live in where the cost of living is much less and there's still opportunity. There's great markets throughout the United States. Like if you're in places like California that are fairly expensive, there's other states throughout the nation that you have similar markets, you have many opportunities, and you have a much lower cost of living. So your money can go further, in, depending on what your lifestyle is. And then, of course, if you have limited time to build that nest egg, well, then you may need to limit your lifestyle a little bit. But again, you never know. If you're consistent, opportunity is going to come your way, and you can see some growth that you weren't anticipating.
So one of the things that I've talked to different people about is their views about money, right? And I think pretty much what you stated, consistency, start early, and all that has always been the key. What One of the things also is that when people are they're talking, right, or they're learning, that I found out, and the different people that I've talked to, is that it's not necessarily how much money you're gonna have at the end, right, of your goal, whatever that might be. But it's the net worth, right? Net worth is actually a key point. A lot of people don't realize. They think that the net worth has to be. I don't think people understand the net worth, right? This net worth is really simple, right? It's how much money you have coming in versus your expenses, right? The difference is the net worth.
Yeah.
And people believe that you need to have a net worth of $10 million, kind of like what you were saying, $20 million to be comfortable. But you actually nailed it, right? You nailed it in the sense of like your net worth can be whatever it has to be as long as you are doing things within your means. You know, if you want to go and have that TikTok, Instagram lifestyle and have the Mercedes Benz and the latest, the Lamborghinis and the $10 million home, yeah, you're never going to succeed. Good luck trying to get to that point. And that's one of the things that I've noticed a lot of young kids fall into. That they're following these Instagram people or the trendsetters, right? And they don't realize that these guys are posting pictures of Lamborghinis that they don't even own, jets that they don't even own. There was this one young rapper. I was telling my wife about this. He posted a picture that he was taking off to, I forget what city it was, and there's a picture of him outside of those Lear jets, and then somebody caught him inside like a Southwest airplane, right? After he posted it that he was going, and then he posted the picture of the guy sitting in the regular seat like normal people. Like, what is he talking about? This is not true. He's here with me in Southwest. We're going to the same spot. So people need to watch out for that, the fallacy of what money is. Now, in regards to the different mindset of wealth and stuff like that, what would you say is a common myth about building wealth that you should debunk?
That it's hard. Like I said, I think, oh, it's so hard to do these things. No, I mean, listen, does it take does it take a while? Yes. You're talking about TikTok, instant gratification. I think, you know, the media, the world today has shown kids that, oh yeah, it's so easy. You can just do it in like a year or two. Now, I just said it's easy to get wealth, right? But over a period of time, not in 1 or 2 years. Can it happen? Yeah, if you invent something that everybody wants, of course you can. If you have that creativity and you can do it, God bless you, right? Great, that's awesome. But for most of us, right, to get to that level and to become a billionaire, you'd have to sacrifice so many different things that many of us don't want to do that. And what the myth, right, is it's hard. No, if you're consistent, you start and you do it consistently, year over year, month over month, whatever, it can be done. If you buy your home when it makes sense to buy your home, build some equity in that, sell it, move into another one. You can do all these different things to build your wealth. And the misconception is that, oh, it's so hard. No, I started as a young man early, doing it, investing $10 a week. And then when I could, I moved it up to 20, then 50. Then, whatever I could, I put it in there. And so it got to a point that I eventually had enough money to put a down payment for a house, buy my first house. you know, it got equity. I sold it, banked that money, and then got into another one. And then invested my money where I could, and it grew. And again, consistent. You and I are very similar in age. I've been doing this, like you mentioned, like 3 decades. Uh, and we've done well as a family, right? I've got a
Hmm.
great wife, partner, and I wish that for everybody. But the true key to it is knowing yourself, knowing what's important to you, and then being consistent about it. And it
And
doesn't matter what amount it is that you put in, just do it. 5, $10, whatever.
so stop complaining, do the work.
Yeah, do it. Just
Yes.
try to make it so that it happens on autopilot. Do it automatically. Try not to see that money. Don't get that money in your hands and then have to put it somewhere. Have it go automatically into whatever it is that you want it to. A lot of companies now allow employees to do that, and you can do that. Have it automatically go into your brokerage account, the amount that you want. Uh, there's many things that you can do so that it happens automatically. Invest in that 401k if you get the match. Start your own IRA, start your own brokerage account, buy other assets. And it doesn't have to be just stocks. It could be other things. There's other things out there. Real estate is a perfect example. Precious metals are other things. Even if you're interested in things like art or photography, those are things too that you can look into and purchase, and that can grow in value over time.
Yeah. and I think a lot of people need to realize that, you mentioned the Microsoft stock, and for example, the even the Tesla stock, right? That goes
Yeah.
up and down, sometimes 30 points. It's hectic. And so, with my daughter, we're having this conversation because she slowly invests in, the triple Q, the QQQ fund that invests in all the techs. It's over $500, and she's like, I want to do this, but I don't have $500. However, in the brokerage account that she uses, you can buy slices, right? Fractures of a stock. And I think people should realize that, just like you stated, even if you are doing this path, even if you don't have the $500 and you're doing it $10 a week or $20 a month, whatever it is, you can buy little chunks and slowly build up your portfolio that way. Um, so, we talked about net worth, talked about hard work and investing and all that stuff. And I believe that there's a lot of misconception in what people think is being wealthy, right? And wealth has a different meaning. Um, how would you define true wealth and a fulfillment beyond just money?
Well, again, I started, earlier mentioning know thyself, and I think, success, true wealth, is really what you value. For me, it's always been, family, friends, faith, things like that, but also, health, right? I truly believe that if the things that are valuable to you, if you're able to be in a good position in all of them, then you really you hit the jackpot. You are wealthy and you are very successful. So knowing what that is for you is very important. Um, and there's many different paths to that, right? At least for me, that was what was important to me. Those things that I mentioned, and the money and the assets and the net worth and all that. That's just a little bit of icing on the top, right? I think the more important things like health, family, friends, that's really the success. That's really the wealth, and then the money's just like I said, the icing on the top. That just makes it a little bit sweeter, right? And you're able to use those things to experience things that, again, a lot of people unfortunately will not have the chance to do that. And I've been lucky and blessed that happened.
Okay, that's very well stated because it's 100% true. Again, you're speaking the gospel truth here, which I love. That's why I thought you were going to be perfect for this type of conversation, because people need to hear that. They feel that, well, it feels like a lot of people don't have a pathway, that they don't have a way to grow their money or their wealth, whatever their definition of wealth might be. And common theme that I've found in different people that I've talked to is exactly what you said. Like yesterday, I was talking to this gentleman, Brian Escuer, who helps first generation investors invest in, he has a syndication. And what's really interesting is that he will take the time to teach people. So, okay, this is what you need to do. This is how we should do this. And this is what a good deal looks like. Don't just take my word for it. Go do the homework. If it makes sense, we'll do it. If it doesn't, don't invest with me, you know? And I like that there's this undercurrent of people teaching other people, because you're having to fight the quick schemes that people are falling into, that they've been around since you and I've been around.
Yeah,
I remember you and I had been to some classes. We went to some conferences. We even saw Tony Robbins.
yeah,
And some of that stuff. We've been to different things, and I've mirrored some of the stuff that you've done in investments, right? I never had the chance to do the stock options because obviously I was working for hospitals, not corporate world type stuff like you were. But we did the whole 403k, I mean the 401k and the 403bs and all that stuff, and rolled them over, and got a house, and built equity in that house, and like move on to another house right after you bank some of that money and invest it. um, One of the things also that a lot of people will say is that, well, yeah, that works good for you because you had a good paying job, right? You are saying, well, no, you can do the $10 a week, right?
yeah.
So If you could go and give yourself one piece of advice, right? Back when you were younger, your younger self about money, what and happiness, of course. What would that advice be?
Just be patient. I mean, look, listen. I feel that I've been lucky enough that I feel that I did everything that I could right. I did it, in small increments, and I was very consistent and disciplined. There's a saying that Jim Rohn said that all of us are going to face, you know, one of two pains: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. I've always chose to be extremely disciplined with everything that I do. And, as a child growing up poor, I never wanted that for me or my family moving forward. And my parents worked their butt off. And so they were my motivation and inspiration as well. But I never wanted that. So I started it from a very young age to be disciplined and just putting very, even if it's a little bit in and doing it. And also, the other thing, when we're talking about W 2 workers, I want to point this out. I've done a lot of learning and studying. And with any job that I've ever held, it's very important for anybody out there that is a W 2 worker. I often hear I've been in positions of leadership throughout my career as I've gotten well into my career, right, older and things like that. And the common thing was, well, they need to pay me more so I can do that. And the reverse is what should be the case. In other words, you should do more to show the value that you can provide the organization. And I assure you, if you're able to save or make the money, the salary is going to come, the promotions are going to come. And going back to other investment vehicles, you mentioned there a little bit earlier, I get stock options in the organizations that I worked in because I've been able to provide that value, provide that revenue. And so because of that, I've been compensated and promoted and things like that. And so that was a result of continuing to, you know, read, learn, try to expand my knowledge of the business and not just look at the little piece that I'm responsible for, but look at the total picture and see how I can help the organization grow. And so I'm sorry, I know I went off a little bit of topic
No,
there.
that's you. That's actually very well rounded answer because it does state right. So again, I'm looking at the view of somebody who is not in your position, right? Who's just starting out,
Yeah.
who complains because I in my myself, right, with my own employees, they were, and I stated this before. I won't have to do a podcast just on what I feel about universities and stuff. That's a whole different thing. But I do feel like, and I'm talking specifically therapy, and some doctors and stuff like that. Um, but I could generalize it, right? That they're taught that, okay, you get this degree and you're going to make this amount of money.
Yeah.
There was a study that came out. There was a school. They found out that the ROI, right, the return on investment on a certain degree, is it worth it? And the highest debt that this degree had, which was film study, right? They come out with a degree on film study, which is garbage. However, this university in California told them, come to our university. We have ex directors, famous directors that have been here. They support us, and we'll guarantee that you'll get $200,000-300,000 a year, right? When you're a young person out in Hollywood, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna make this much money. However, they don't tell you that you're gonna be in debt $200,000 to $300,000, right? And that job that you're looking at, and like how many famous successful movie directors are out there?
Yeah, it's
It's a
hard.
handful, right? And so the study came out like the average salary that these kids were getting was $60,000 a year, and they could not just move forward because you kind of paint yourself in a corner, right? When you get this degree and the university tells you this is how much money you're going to make. And so transition that to like my workplace. I had these kids where they were told like, yeah, they're going to make 150 $200,000 a year. I'm like, no, it's supply and demand, right? In a hospital, yes, I need therapists and I need ancillary workers. I need nurses and doctors, people who are taking care of that patient 24 hours, 7 days a week. You need the specialists, right? And so it was really hard to battle that mentality of like, well, I need to get paid more because I have more letters after my name. And it's not the truth.
It isn't. Yeah, and then look, listen, I've been in the corporate world pretty much my whole career. You know, a little bit of background. I worked for a major grocery store. I started off as a bagger and ended up as a director in the organization. Uh, and it was through work. But you're right. I mean, throughout my career, I've had plenty of young people that, have the MBA, that have all this, don't get me wrong, great education. They're very bright, very bright people. It's just, they have this illusion that
Yep.
just because you have those, three-letter words after your name, that entitles you to some type of salary. And the truth of the matter is that that's not how business works. Uh, those three little letters after your name, unless it's like, a two-letter MD, or something like that. Yeah, it entitles you to a certain amount. But in the business world, it's not the letters. It's really the work that you put in, the
Yep.
value that you bring, and the value that you can provide. Right? I mean, again, going back to what I mentioned, showing your value, meaning looking at other aspects. Like there's in any job, there's jobs that nobody wants to do because everybody wants to just focus on their own. Be that person that does that other job. Make yourself valuable so that if something is going wrong with the organization, you're the last to go. And provide that value, your salary grows. Your salary grows, you can put a little bit more away, like I did, right? That $10 became 20, that $20 became 50, that $50 became 100. You know, throughout your career, when you're young, if you're living at your parents' house and you have a job, man, you should be putting at least 30, 40% of what you make because your parents are pretty much, subsidizing your lifestyle at the moment.
Exactly.
So take advantage of those things or work for an organization that has stock purchasing programs, that have 401k. There's a lot of organizations now that even help with tuition. So pick those organizations, look for those jobs because you start out early. Like I said, you can be well into your mid 30s and already have a nice big nest egg. And the unfortunate part is most of us nowadays, or most people in this country, the greatest country in the world, have all these opportunities and because of fear or whatever, haven't just started, whether it's $5 a week or $5 every 2 weeks, whatever, just every little bit helps. And over time, that becomes a nice big nest egg. And so that's what I encourage everybody to do is just start, just be disciplined, just do it. And I assure you, things are gonna, at least you're gonna have something there. And that's the important part.
Okay. So that's another great answer, of course, by famous Jose Alcaine. Um, One of the things also in the same vein that we're talking about how people are expect the quick, fast money, you know, and I know we can't fight this. We can't fight social media, right?
Yeah.
Um, in regards to the expectation, right? The I need, I'll go do a selfie and I'll become famous, right? They have this horrible mentality that the money just shows up, right? There are ways, obviously, for certain people, like in YouTube and different, venues to make money doing that stuff, but that's not a sustainable income type of thing.
Yeah.
What I like that, I've always, and I can't remember who is the one that said it, that there's two ways of getting rich in the world, right? Is one is to have a high end paying job, or to be a business person, right? And when you go the different routes, especially like a business, starting your own business, or doing things like that, you mentioned that it definitely sacrifices a lot because you're sacrificing time with your family,
Yeah.
you're sacrificing friendships, you're sacrificing sometimes your own health, right? Because you have to make sure, because this is like, if I don't do this, then there's nothing happening, right? And of course, then there's the path of, the you and I kind of took that path of, slowly growing in our fields and getting paid the right appropriate salary. One of the things that I think people don't realize, that I've learned this and I've seen this many times, especially I'm in healthcare, so just background. People they think that they're not expandable, and they are. We're all replaceable, and that's a very sad truth that people don't realize. They think that you could just show up and do whatever you want and that nobody's going to replace you. Unless they do exactly what Jose stated. Make yourself valuable for that company. Show them how they can cut costs or save money different ways, because nobody is giving you anything. You have to earn it, you know? And that is an uncomfortable truth. You have to always remember that you can be gone at any moment.
Yeah,
How are you going to provide value to that company? That's the key.
absolutely. No, listen. I think you're right. Corporations are really interested in the bottom line, and if you're a hindrance or not contributing to that bottom line, you're out. And that's what That's why the continuous learning and expanding your knowledge beyond just your job is so important, right? Because then you are marketable to different areas. You can move to a different department, or even if you're, let's say, in something like healthcare, right? If you have marketable, you know, a marketable skill set, that skill set would work in any other type of business, right? If you're a good talker, if you know financials, if you understand how businesses operate, because all businesses operate very similarly. If
Exactly.
you understand all those things, your your skill set can translate into any different part of business. And so building those, you know, you know, building those skill sets, whatever they may be, continues to learn and expand your knowledge of things. That's what makes you valuable, and that's what can help you transition to from one job to a different business type of model and be very successful. I think, again, if I attribute one other thing to my success besides being disciplined and being consistent, is the importance of continuous learning and knowledge, right? You and I have known each other, like you mentioned, well over 30 years. The one thing that I do, even till this day, is, on the weekends, I'm spending, 3 to 4 hours on YouTube looking at videos of many different things,
Yep.
about finance, about different things. I spend time reading books on different subjects, health, business, philosophy, all these different things, just to get ideas. One little idea can change the way you look at things and the value that you bring into your job. And so, again, I've been lucky in that by having that motivation, by being disciplined. Again, remember the pain of discipline or the pain of regret? I always choose discipline because I don't ever want to regret not doing something that could have been a huge benefit, not only to myself, but more importantly to my family.
That's very well stated. And we're coming to the end of our podcast and our little interview. And first of all, thank you so much for the information you provided, because it's really really interesting that people need to hear this kind of truths. Sometimes people don't want to hear these things, and you said everything so well in so many ways. So to finish, just to respect your time, you already said everything, but how would you put everything that you just stated in maybe one or two sentences for the people out there?
Number one, know what's important to you, right? Prioritize your values. Then be disciplined. If you want to grow wealth, be disciplined about doing so, right? And make sure that whatever you decide to do, whether it be a career, be a business person, be an inventor to start a new business, whatever the case may be, make sure that it doesn't, you know, fight against your values. Because then it doesn't matter how successful you are in those things. If it doesn't mesh with your values, you're going to be an unhappy person. And so that's number two. And then number three, just work hard, learn, continue learning. I think, getting ideas and getting different mindsets and getting, different perspectives from many different people. There's tons of people, and everybody's willing to talk to you. I'm sure everybody's favorite subject is themselves. So, right, don't be scared to go ask somebody a question. They're going to give you that information because, listen, if they're good people, they're going to want to help the younger or even the people of the same generation. I think, people become fearful because they feel they're going to get rejected. And you know what? That might happen, but in most cases, that's not going to happen. And so it doesn't hurt to ask those questions that you're curious about.
Yep, that's how you learn. Well, Jose, thank you so much for joining me in my little podcast and for the quick little interview. Thank you, everybody who's listening. And until next time, take care.
Thanks.